Hey guys, Roxabox90 here with some more M14 spoilers, and holy cow, we have a whole bunch. So let's get right cracking. We have Path of Bravery. It's 2 and a white for an enchantment. As long as your life total is greater than or equal to your starting life total, creatures you control get +1. So it's essentially an anthem. It's not going to be so easy to do that, but in limited could very well happen, especially when you read second ability, which is whenever one or more creatures you control attacks, you gain life equal to the number of attacking creatures. This is in addition to any sort of life link you have going on. So I think in the right deck and limited, this could be really good just because it's a solid anthem and that there are plenty of token generators in the set. So that in of itself is kind of fun. They made a twist on the anthem. Also, making it that you gain life for each creature you attacks is really good for casual players to it helps them get attacking multiple creatures and the pros and cons of that. And in this case, it kind of reinforces that sort of element of Magic. So I like that it's all in one card. It's a pretty cool card. Constructed playable, I don't think it's quite strong enough. Just flat anthem. The ability, I don't think is good enough. There's not enough crazy token going on to, I think, make that worthwhile. But it's a fun card. Then we have Kalonian Hydra, which is an awesome, huge mythic. They seem to have a Hydra all the time. That's just what they do. Not such a fan of the art, but they've had other cool Hydra art, so, can't win it all. 5 for a 0/0 trample that enters the battlefield with 4 1/1 counters. Whenever it attacks, you double the number of 1/1 counters on each creature you control. Oh my god, that card is ridiculous. Crazy, crazy awesome. Just in limited alone, if it's by itself, it will completely win you the game. But it probably won't be by itself, because there's lots of 1/1 generators, lots of 1/1 creatures that are from counters, and you double the number of counters each time. So if there are 1 counter on a guy, he attacks once, 2, 4, 8. Crazy. And he himself, just when he attacks, he becomes an 8/8 trample. So you have 5 for an 8/8 trample, essentially is what he is. And then he gets stronger each time. So limited, you play him. If they don't deal with him in 1, maybe 2 turns, you win the game. And he's going to be huge. I think he's even potentially constructed playable in the right deck. We'll have to see if he's quite enough for the meta, but just having that each creature you control doubles the counters, not just himself, could be a huge twist. I definitely think he's constructed viable. Whether he becomes the card, we'll have to see, but pretty awesome epic mythic. Then we have Nightmare, which is a reprint. It's just 6 for a star flying Nightmare Horse, which is awesome, and I love the new art. Its power and toughness equal to the number of swamps you control. Again, easy enough to understand. Reinforces mono black decks, particularly limited, but I think in constructed, this is a quality 6-drop just because it lands, let's say, at 5 or 6, and you're basically a 6/6 flying for 6 that can only get stronger turn by turn. So constructed could work, could be good enough for constructed, not quite sure. It's not Titan, but I think it's close enough. It's a lot of fun for newer players, so I'm very happy they reprinted this card. It's definitely going to see lots of people trying to make mono black decks. That Nightmare is the epitome of evilness, so I think people will love that. And is that like a baggage of souls on his back? It's just so cool. So yeah, Nightmare, cool reprint. Then we have it is whatever. I'm not sure which language this is, but it's not English. So we're going to go to the English version. Oath of the Ancient Wood, which is 2 and a green for an enchantment. Whenever it or another enchantment enters the battlefield, you may put a 1/1 counter on target creature. So that is pretty solid enchantment. There are a lot of Gave combo decks that run heavy enchantment builds. This card would be very nice there. It works well in token and 1/1 counter builds, so you might see some stuff still with Simic going on. I think it's a fun card. The fact it relies on enchantments to be really good, a little harder for more expert players since very few decks run serious enchantments unless they're a dedicated enchantment deck. You're not going to see across the board. Those are more niche decks, and this card will probably not see major constructed play, at least pro-wise, but definitely a very fun casual card. I'm sure lots of players will be trying to figure out the options for casual constructed and maybe even limited. So that's that. Door of Destiny. Actually, we have a couple here. We're going to start with Festering Newt. This is like a mini cycle. I think it's kind of cool. It's 1/1 for 1, which is fine. When it dies, target creature and opponent's control gets 1/1/1/. So it's Festering Goblin, but that creature gets 4/4 if you control a creature named Bogbrew Witch, which is very much more powerful. Because Bogbrew Witch is 4 for 1/3, tap 2 tap, search library for a card named Festering Newt or Bubbling Cauldron, and put it into the battlefield. So it's 2 mana to tutor up Festering Newt and put into play, which again, if it dies, it can potentially kill another creature. And this is the tutor, and then the third piece is Bubbling Cauldron. 2 for an artifact, tap 1, tap it, sack a creature, you gain 4 life. Tap 1, tap it, sacrifice a creature named Festering Newt. Each opponent loses 4 life, and you gain life equal to that. And as you can see, when this dies, if you have it all 3 in play, the Bog Witch makes it do essentially creature removal, and then the Bubbling Cauldron, you sack it into Bubbling Cauldron, which does even more. So this is a fun limited piece. I think a lot of casual players will have fun putting it together in limited, maybe even making constructed decks around these sort of combos. It's not super powerful. Definitely not outside limited. I still think it's a bit awkward even in limited because you have to get all the pieces. But it will be a lot of fun for casual players. That's cool. And then Door of Destinies, which is hugely awesome. It's choose a creature type. Whenever you cast a spell of that type, put a charge counter on it. Creatures you control get 1/1 for each counter. So it's a huge, constantly evolving anthem. Will definitely be fantastic in a lot of creature-heavy decks. And there's plenty of tribal to go around all across basically every format. Don't quite know if it's a strong enough anthem, but I think it's pretty close to being seriously multi-format playable. So I'm pretty excited for this card, and I really like that art. It's very cool. Then we have Elite Archanis, which is 1/1 for 4. You may exile an instant card from your hand, tap X, copy that exiled card. You may cast the copy where X is that card. So pretty much it's a flexible Isochron Scepter. We know Isochron Scepter is awesome, so this card will be awesome. Probably even more so in limited, but I think this is actually potentially constructed playable just because of that Isochron Scepter effect. It could be you put on a really powerful spell and then you could just play the spell over and over. It's pretty solid. Then we have Strionic Resonator, 2 for an artifact, tap 2, tap it, copy target triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. It's kind of a lesser Rings of Brightheart, but it's kind of fun, and it will hopefully teach people how to use trigger. Triggered being when it uses the word when, whenever, or at, which means when something causes it to be triggered. So it will be pretty fun to see where this goes. It seems to be a very narrow piece, but it should work in the right decks that rely on heavy triggered abilities. I'm sure EDH's card will be seeing some play in some decks, and otherwise casual players have fun. And we get to the last 3, Chandra being in this batch. We're going to get to her. Mana Weft Sliver, 2 for 1/1. Sliver creatures that you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. This is really, really powerful. I would think this would probably cost 3, but they're making it cost 2, so okay. This card is ridiculous because it can lead to your ramp just being off the walls. You play a 1-drop Sliver, you play him. Next turn you have 4, or even up to 4 mana, I guess, 4 or 5 mana, 5 mana access, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. So huge, definitely could be the 2-drop of a constructed deck. It's just that awesome ramp-wise. Then we have Pyromancer's Gauntlet, which is Chandra's Gauntlet, which if a red instant or sorcery spell you control or a red planeswalker you control will deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals damage plus 2. So of course it's supposed to work in tandem with her because she costs 4, and we'll get to her in a second. And then you play this next turn, and it's supposed to be much more powerful. Again, it'll work well if you have a lot of good burn. I don't know if we're going to have enough good burn. But it's kind of awesome, especially in the right decks, but it's a little expensive. Just is, unless, I think in EDH, Red's going to love this card. Constructed, I think it's a bit expensive, but Chandra, the Pyromaster. Okay, so she's 2 and 2 red, which is annoying just because it makes her more awkward to play with. In fact, I'd rather even have a multicolored planeswalker, but of course she won't be. So 2 for 2 red, which kind of shoves her into the mono red category or near mono red. For 4 loyalty, which is fine. That makes her close to constructed playable, but is she good enough? Let's see. +1, she does 1 damage to our creature target player and 1 damage up to 1 creature played. Okay, so it's one of these ping things. That creature can't block this turn. Oh, okay, so that's something. I guess they wanted to do for aggro, they wanted to make where you can prevent their best creature from blocking. It's still annoying that it's 1 and 1 damage. Even though it's 1 to player and 1 to the creature, still frustrating. It doesn't really protect her, again, which is the biggest problem. I mean, you play her and then you waste a turn basically doing nothing. So in limited, it could be a game changer. Constructed, I don't think it's going to be good enough. 0, exile a top card of your library. You may play it this turn. Okay, so that's kind of like draw a card. That you may play it, so you have to play it. It's not for free. I'm pretty sure you have to pay for that. I think you have to pay for that. It doesn't say cast, but I'm pretty sure it's not that you can just play it for free. Pretty sure you have to pay the mana cost for it. That's a little too randomized for me. I don't think that's good enough for constructed. We don't have enough. We don't have a top or crystal ball or something to manipulate the top very well. Maybe if they print that somehow in Theros, some variant of that, she could be better then. But for now, that ability it's a bit too random for constructed. Limited, it might work just because limited decks are very few limited decks are sizable. They tend to keep to, you have your top creatures and lands, so your top cards and then lands. So your chances of getting a card that's worth playing more likely. What's annoying though is that you can't really play that card the first turn she lands. You're not even using her 0 for most of the time when you drop her, so she has to survive, and she has no protection, no viable protection. Already, I'm really not happy with her, but -7, exile top 10 cards, choose an instant or sorcery, copy it 3 times. Okay, so that's kind of unique and fun, and I'm sure in EDH that could be really good. I don't think you can get it off in constructed because I don't think she'll last long enough to be able to get you there. So, kind of disappointed with her. I just don't see how she might work in a very narrow deck. She has to be sizably protected. You have to have the right aggro to keep your opponent from dealing with her too quickly. You have to have something to deal with the top cards of your library so that you can manipulate them. So I'm pretty sure, you can play the land, but if you already played a land this turn, you can't play a second land with her ability. So if you draw a land at the top, then it's a waste if you've already played a land. So yeah, she's kind of awkward, very, very narrow use. Don't think she's going to be very constructive playable at this point. Sorry guys, that's my frank thoughts. So let me know your thoughts about all these cards below. Sorry the video is a little long, but we had so much to talk about, so I'd love to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section of the video as well. Check out my channel sponsors in the description of the video, and as always, Roxabox90 signing out. I'll see you guys next time.